Oh, what a snowy good morning. You guys, welcome in. It's Jax. We're gonna go out on a big, long adventure today. How many of you guys are checking your phones right now when you heard that? Wow. Ding, ding, ding. Isn't it funny how when you hear that generic Apple message ring, you're like, I heard it on a podcast the other day when I was trucking, and I was like, what? There it is again. Somebody's blowing up my text messages early in the morning. Oh, so today, you guys, today is gonna be a feat. Today's gonna be a challenge. I shouldn't say today. I should say today and tomorrow. We're gonna haul some cattle. This is gonna be the longest run. I think this is gonna be the longest run of the fall for me. I did one to Kansas earlier this year that was pretty far, and it might rival this. But I'm loading cattle up in Sun River, Montana, and we're going all the way down to Nazareth, Texas. It's somewhere in the 1,300 mile range, I believe. I don't know for sure. You never know until you actually get there, because you Google it, but the route that Google or Apple Maps or whoever gives you typically is not the same route that a semi can take. It'll give you the rough idea of the direction you should go, but a lot of the routes and stuff and the semi-truck restrictions don't allow you to always go the way that they say. So it's calling around 1,250 miles. I'm sure we're going to add about 100 to that, going the way that we need to go on the 2-lane roads and such. Not to get around the scales, but some of these states like Colorado, New Mexico, they don't want you on their freeways if you're over 80,000 pounds. And we'll be a little over 80,000 pounds. Loading up some bred heifers. Bred heifers, of course, in the cattle world means that they're pregnant first-time mamas, and probably going to calve probably in March. So they're quite a ways off from calving. But some lucky Texan decided that he wanted to bring some Montana genetics on down to old Tejas out there in West Texas. Nazareth is kind of down around Hereford, Lubbock area. And that's where we're going. So the other challenge we're going to deal with is the weather. I think the storms have blown through, but I think we're going to have some ice roads today. We're not going to deal with actual snow falling from the skies, but the wind blew really hard last night. It was about 30 degrees. A lot of the roads totally iced over, so that's going to give us some challenges. Probably not so much in us, because once we're loaded, a loaded cow truck really grips the road really well. But what you'll have to, the biggest challenge to navigate is going to be dealing with other traffic, other vehicles on the road. That's where things can get a little interesting. So anyways, let's get out. I had a good sleep. I'm fully charged. I'm like your cell phone in the morning, fully charged. Like, okay, let's go. So truck's warming up. Gonna go around, do a little pre-trip. I slept right in town. I gotta go out about 15 miles away and go load. Recorded a podcast last night. I'm in Fairfield, Montana right now, which is where we grew up, and we record the podcast from there. So made time to record a quick little podcast last night with brother Luke, and now it's time to get to work. He's at the dental office popping teeth, and I guess it's time for me to grab some gears, huh? Oh, what a deal, what a deal. Hey guys, it's Jax, and I've got a problem. just putting my boots on. Something I always have a problem with when I'm out here hauling, I keep these coveralls in here and I put them on when it's sloppy, and then when I get the poo sprays, it keeps me clean. But on these cold, frozen days, I'm like, no, I don't think I'll need it. I think I'll be fine. And I always think I'll be fine. And I always end up getting a poo spray. And again this morning, I just put my boots on, I'm leaving my coveralls in there, telling myself, it'll be fine. Will it be fine? I don't know. We'll see. You guys remember this trailer? Of course you do. This is the one we bought out in Nebraska a few episodes back. Doing a little, she's been doing a little hauling. Been working good. I've been pleased with it. However, I don't know if I can set it up one-handed. Hang on. There you go. Sorry about that. But it's been going good. I put them tires on it. I put virgin tires on it. Brakes are all good enough to get me through the rest of the run. And we're just going. So we'll get set up and we'll go out and see what these guys got going on for cattle. Hopefully they're about ready to load. These long trips, it's really important to get loaded early for your sanity. If you get loaded late, it's tough. So it's only 8:45 in the morning, and I think they're pretty darn close. I think they just want the brand inspector to make sure they're the right cattle. We have brand inspection laws. Everything west of the Missouri, everything west of the Missouri, there's brand inspection laws. East of the Missouri, it's state by state. So in Montana, you have to have your cattle inspected by a state inspector to make sure that you have proper ownership and you can document. So you can't cattle rustle out here as easily. Out in the Midwest and everything out that way, I don't know how they keep everything straight. I think a lot of people brand out there anyway just for that reason. But all right, we'll get set up. Load in the nose. Come on, girl, go easy. You're gonna love Texas. Easy. There's our 4. Hey. Run that before you get the butt home. That would look good, Steve. I'm talking about the cow. Oh, gotcha. I got like some 65-year-old viewers out there that would just love to see the little trucker behinds, I'm sure. The way 950? They'll be close. This weather tells me that. Yeah. We're right now driving for March. Yeah. Mid-March. From the time to grow. How'd you find this car? Internet still? Yeah. Oh yeah. Those are the best when they find you. Hey, 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 hey. Girlies, ho! 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 Hey, step up there. Ho! Step up there. Hey, 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 hey! Ho! 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 Push to the front. Ho! Hey, 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 hey! Hey! Hey, 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 hey! Come on, girlies. Come on, a lot of room up there. Go! Go! Push up there to the front. Come on. Go! Hey, hey, hey! I dodged the bullets. Pretty sure. You never know until you get to do the final inspection. The best is when you look down and you're like, hey, I dodged all the bullets, no poo. And then you go and you sit down in your truck and like hours later you get out to do something and there's a huge smear of poo on your seat from your back where you got hit in the back. Technology sometimes goes. I've recorded 2 different little monologues for you as I've been traveling and have not been able to capture either one. So, that's the way it goes. Anyway, I don't remember what they were about. It was too long ago. Oh, you guys, I just had a little excitement, a little cardiovascular ramp up. So, a good thing and a bad thing, all right? The good thing is that the roads today could not be more opposite of what they were yesterday when I was on my way here to get these cattle loaded up. It's warmed up, it's 35 degrees, got a nice tailwind, roads are bared off, bada bing, bada boom, boom. Bad thing, I weighed my truck, we got all weighed up, just a little bit overweight, just a little bit heavy. Not bad, but a little bit heavy. Now, let me explain this. This is the conundrum, okay? This particular deal, they called in and said, you know, a few weeks ago, said, hey, we got a load of 60 head of cattle that need to go down to Texas. They're supposed to weigh X amount of pounds. The load will be 57,000 pounds total if the cattle make their weight. If they don't, it'll be a little lighter. So when I look at that and I go, okay, which trucks do I need to send? I love the long hauls. I love long hauling. 1,400 mile trips, they're tough, they're challenging, but I like it because it's a challenge. It's a little beyond what most, I think it's safe to say most cattle haulers don't really care for those distances. I think most of them kind of prefer that 5 to 750 mile runs are kind of the like, yeah, just a nice good big day. These ones are kind of on a different level of hardship. So when I look at what truck I'm going, that's a load I would love to do. However, this setup that I've been running this fall, my legal limit is about 55,000 pounds. 55 and a half, that's legal. Meaning that all of my tires, when they're all weighed, you know, the pressure they're putting on the ground is within the limit that they set, right? So the next truck up from this size that I'm running, the next step up in line would be a truck that is 60,000 pound legal, right? So my capacity is 55, next guy is gonna be 60. The next step up from that truck is 62,000. And then the next step up from that one is 65 to 66,000. Those are kind of the 4 tiers of cattle trucks, okay? That's basically, at least in my realm of what I'm doing, that's where they're at. So, we'll take this a little further. This is where people wonder, well, you knew it was gonna be a little more than you can haul. We weighed the cattle and they weighed 56,500 pounds. So technically I'm about 1,500 pounds over the limit. Another thing you gotta remember though, with cattle, keep in mind, cattle shrink. They get smaller. You know the little toys you put in water and they get bigger? Cattle do the opposite when you're transporting them. Here's why. Most people think it's because they poo and they whiz a bunch. That's some of it. But the real way that they lose their body weight is through respiration, through body heat, and then respirating. So they put off a lot of heat that comes off their body. Of course, body heat has, what happens when you get in a cold car in the winter? All the windows fog up, right? Because you're putting off moisture into the car. So cattle are the same way. They got moisture coming off their backs into the air, and then they also breathe a whole bunch, right? They're sitting in there breathing and breathing. And as you breathe, you lose water vapor out of your body, out of your lungs. And as you lose water vapor, you lose weight. So that's how cattle actually shrink. Now, individually, it's not a whole lot. It's like, you know, just a handful of pounds each, 10, 15, 20 pounds each over the course of the trip. But collectively, it turns into a couple thousand pounds. Probably by the time I get to Texas, if they weighed these, I doubt they will, down there because we're going to a ranch. But if they weighed them, they went on the truck at 56,500 pounds. I bet they'll come off the truck at 51 or 52,000 pounds. That's how much weight they'll lose. So I'm only heavy for a little ways, right? Like if I can get it past the first couple hundred miles of my trip, cattle are gonna shrink. They're back there all cozied up and warm and respirating and perspirating. And they're getting smaller. All is well. So when people say, why don't you just send a bigger truck? Well, the next step up is a 60,000 pound truck. So I send that guy up, he comes and loads, and the cattle weigh what they do, 56,500. He's gonna go, man, this isn't even close to my capacity. And if you're not maxed out to your capacity when you're hauling cows, you're not maximizing your profits, your cents per mile. Because we get paid on 90% of what we do. It is 95% of what we do. You're paid by the weight. So the more weight you have, the more cents per mile you're gonna get. That's why we have these big old trucks, the triple axles and the quad axles and the lift axles on the trucks. It's because you get more, and it's substantially more. So if you only truck up here in Montana and the Dakotas and in this area, the Northwest, why not have those big rigs where you can max out your load weights? Well, anyway, so I send a guy, you see where I'm going with this, they could be unhappy with the load because they're not gonna maximize their weight. So instead, I send myself, I go, I'm gonna be a little overweight for the first couple hours, then the cattle are gonna shrink, and we'll be square, right? All is good. Well, all was good until I come over the hill and there's a jump scale set up 180 miles into my trip today. Not nearly far enough down the road for my cattle to be shrunk to the weight. They've shrunk some, but they're not shrunk to the proper amount. The scale's been closed all day, and I come over the hill and they just opened it, and they said like 7 minutes before I arrived. Can you believe that? So I'm like, oh boy, oh boy. And it's a local guy. He's local to Montana. I know him. I actually know him. He's good, and he's very understanding. So were I to tell him the deal, on these cattle, I'm sure he would have said, hey, come on, man, go on your way and sin no more. But you never know. So anyway, I get to the scale opening, and he's got a flatbed truck that he's inspecting and doing the deal. I got the old go on down the road. So we're good. So now the next scale that's coming up is Sheridan, Wyoming. It's another 3 hours ish from where I'm at now. So we're good there. They'll probably be closed anyway. But anyway, that's what's up. There was one more thing I wanted to say about the weight situation. I finally remembered what it was. Okay, let me explain this. I know that's a lot of explaining, but sometimes these truck trips, there are a lot of explanations and a lot of thoughts while I'm just rolling down the old highway, the old high road. Anyway, here's what's frustrating about weights, okay? Because I know there has to be a certain segment of people watching this going, why don't you just float the proper weight? Just, you don't have to worry about it. That's easier said than done with livestock. We've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but I'll try to give you a condensed version. Here's what my beef is with weights. If there was an equipment hauler in front of me that was hauling a bulldozer that weighed 56,500 pounds, and he had the same setup that I do, triple axle trailer, 3-axle semi, he can go buy a permit to say, hey, I'm gonna be a few thousand pounds overweight on my truck, so I'm gonna buy a permit. And they'll go, oh yeah, here you go. And he can run around and do that all day long, and it's legal and fine. I cannot do that. A flatbed cannot do that, hauling multiple pieces. A van trailer, reefers, nobody else can do that. Here's why. The machinery hauler, his load is considered divisible, meaning that you can divide it down. So if you've got one too many pallets on your flatbed or in your trailer, you can take a pallet off, and then you're legal. So they look at livestock, they look at cattle, and this seriously is like the bane of our existence. They look at livestock and they say, well, those are divisible loads. So you can just take 2 of those off of here and you'll be totally legal. But my perspective is leave 2 of them on and I'll be legal in a couple hours because they're going to shrink. And then a few hours after that, I'm going to be way under legal. I'm going to be way below what my weight is. So let's average it out. That's my thought. They'll say, well, just take 2 of these cattle up. Well, let me tell you about the cattle I have on specifically today. These are pregnant heifers, right? I think we talked about that earlier. They've been developed by this guy since they were born. He's raised them from then all the way up. He got some good Montana bull power and got these heifers pregnant. He carried them all through the summertime out on his pastures, and then he went through the trouble of marketing them, found a buyer, got everything lined up. It's a lot of work. It's like a year and a half. No, it's more than that. Let's call it a year and a half of a lot of work. He's had these a long time. This group of 60. So to be like, just take 2 off. You're like, okay, and do what with them? They're like a package. They've been running together forever. You want me to just take 2 of them off? And do what with them? Well, I'm gonna go sell them somewhere else. You can't sell 2 bred cattle without doing it at a huge discount. So you're like, alright, so just take 2 off so that I am legal, even though legal in quotation marks is I'm not allowed to get a permit. See, here's the thing again, we'll go take it another step deeper. Weight rules are to protect the roadways, right? That's what they're for. It's not because you're like, oh man, this guy's gonna, not be able to stop, blah, blah, blah. It's to protect the roadways. That's why they've enacted weight rules. That's not an opinion, that's factual. So, if there's a way that a guy can haul, 1-piece equipment that's non-divisible, for certain other aspects of the trucking industry, why can we not buy a permit? Like, sure, I understand if you've got 100 pallets of concrete powder that need to go on trucks and get distributed to hardware stores across the country. If you pull off 2 pallets, it's really not going to make a difference, because those are going to go sit in a warehouse, they're going to go to a store, they're going to sit, it doesn't matter. They'll just take it and put it on the next truck. Whatever's left over at the end of all the 100 pallets getting moved, they'll put it on, you know, the next week's shipment. Cattle don't work that way. They just don't work that way. It's different. And I know people think all the time, and you get comments even where they're like, well, you know, you're not, you guys aren't special. It's like, it's not that. It's just different. One of the biggest beefs we have with the trucking industry is that they paint everything with such a broad stroke, and they don't allow for any diversity. It's just like, nope, you're this is the rule, that's that. You're all the same. And it really goes to show that regulators of the trucking industry really don't understand trucking, because you're like, anyone that's in the industry, you know it's different. Van trailers are way different from reefers, and reefers are a world different from livestock, and livestock are different from belly dumps, right? I mean, there's so many different things that go on, but they just go. So that's why I'm bothered by the whole, well, just get legal, just don't haul the little bit of extra weight. Well, those guys can do it because their loads are non-divisible. I would argue that a load of cattle like this is non-divisible, because it's taken a year and a half to develop and prepare them. Maybe even a little longer, like I said, to get them ready for this day, for this point. So anyway, I think you understand where I'm going with that. I'll just leave it at that. But we got by a few more hours, like I say, I'll be square. So yeah, that's the update from the road. So we'll keep her coming. Just put enough fuel on here, 78 gallons. Filled up one side, enough to get me down to Denver. Denver's got a little Maverick fuel stop right now that's selling fuel for $4.50 a gallon. And time I get down in there around midnight or later, that'll be just right. I'll stuff my tanks full. Oh, so you guys, I dodged, you gotta hear this now. I dodged a tremendous bullet. So, you know, I'm coming into Wyoming, there's a port of entry here, and they're major sticklers. And so I'm rolling in, and I'm like, okay, how are we gonna do this? What are we gonna say? What are we gonna do? And working this all through my mind. And as I'm rolling up to the scale, and I wish I took my time-lapse video down like 5 minutes before, because I was like, I probably shouldn't have a camera going if I end up going in here. So I took my camera down. I wish I hadn't, because as I'm pulling up to the scale sign at highway speed, it goes from green open, it flashes and changes colors as I'm driving by it, to red closed. You guys, there's no greater feeling in the whole entire world than to have the light change. I've heard stories. I've never had it happen. Has that happened to you before? Have you ever been driving by it as it closes and you're just like, sha-na-na-na, baby? Oh, it was great. I'm gonna go ahead and pay for this fuel. Gonna grab a quick drink and we will press on into the night. One downside of daylight savings is it gets dark really soon. And it makes for a long night of trucking. Come on. memories I have when Rooster would get overloaded and would need to hire another truck. He had 2 or 3 guys that he would call, and one of them guys, his name was Keith Fredrickson. Isn't that a cool name, Fredrickson? And he had a long nose Pete. It was probably a 359 back in those days. I was young enough. I didn't pay attention to all that. I just knew it was a Peterbilt. No, actually, I don't know if it was a Peter or Kenworth back then. I was a little guy, but he had red lights, and of course back then they weren't the LED. They were just the incandescent. They were like marker lights for the outside, you know, for like a trailer. And he had mounted up here in the corner on each side. He had them mounted up there, and it just blew my mind when I was like 8 years old, 7 years old, and just was like, what in the world is this wondrousness? It was awesome. So when I got this truck, they had already had it rigged up with all the red lights, and that's just the interior lights. That's just how they all are. So kind of a fun little walk back. So we got fueled up. That was Denver. We passed through, stopped in there at the Maverick in Denver. There's a new Maverick store that's running the Mudflap app. Mudflap is an app we use when we're trucking. It's kind of a network of smaller truck stops. Kind of smaller chains like Casey General Stores. A lot of Mavericks have them in the West. Some of the Cenex stores have them. Anyway, gives you a little discount. Sometimes it's only 5 cents. Sometimes it's like 50 cents. But these guys here were at like $4.52, I think, tonight. And in Montana right now we're paying like $5.30. So it was almost $1 less a gallon down here. So that's why I just wanted to get enough to get me down the road. Sheridan was $5. So it adds up. It adds up. When the fuel prices are this high, you can't really play games. I tease people because they ask, they go, why are you driving your cab over? And I say, well, I can't afford it. And I'm teasing. I mean, if I wanted, I could go out and drive the cab over. You're still going to make money. But driving those rigs that struggle with fuel mileage in the wintertime with these windy conditions and whatnot, and the winter blended fuel, their fuel mileage just gets really tough. And it's a lot. Driving this truck versus driving the cab over, difference of about $600 a week in fuel savings. So I could drive the cab over, but it cost me $600 a week in fuel versus this truck. So if you're wondering, so we just kind of save it for special occasions. Maybe someday fuel will get back down to earth and we can drive some fun trucks again. I mean, I like this truck. I shouldn't say it like that. But anyhow, we fueled in Denver, and now I'm headed east on 70. Gonna run over to Lyman, Colorado, and then jump south at Lyman. There's a big 2-lane road that'll run you right down, basically to the old panhandle there of Oklahoma. Go through Boise City, Oklahoma, which is pronounced Boise City, almost like it's the Boys City, but it's spelled Boise City. If you weren't, or if you've never been through the area or talked to the locals, you'd call it Boise City. But don't do that in front of the locals. They'll razz you. So anyway, that's the way we're headed down. I'm not sure. It's about midnight right now, 12:30. I think we're making pretty good time. Check the cattle. They're riding really good. Not having any issues there. They're bopping right along. They're a little bit dirty, which bothers me. On these long hauls like this, they're always requesting that if possible, that the owner of the cattle that's selling them will dry lot the cattle. Dry lot meaning take them off of feed and off of water so that they're not ingesting anything anymore. And the reason I like to do that is because they'll just have less inside them. So that means less poo, less whiz, and they stay cleaner in the trailer. So, you know, right now they're all in there nice and cozy. Someone needs to take a leak. Another cow standing next to that one, you're gonna get whizzed on, right? And so for that reason, the same thing with the poo, you know, they'll drop a deuce, smear it on the side of one of the cows. You know, if they're wet, if they're whizzing a lot, there's a few spots on the top deck that inevitably in any trailer, even new trailers, it'll kind of seep down and drip down on some of the cattle underneath a few spots, just because of the way they have to design the trailers. If you dry lot them, it gets rid of about 50% of that, the unsightly wet mess. And I don't know, I asked if they would on these, and I don't know if they actually did or not, if the owner dry lotted them, but I am guessing not, because I'm down here in Denver now. I'm 850 miles into the trip, and pulling in there, they're still whizzing out the sides, shooting whiz all over the truck stop. So my guess is that they were not. They were probably they probably fed them late last night and kept them on water all night. So anyway, so when you get down to where you're going, you unload them and they're like, I mean, they're fine. It's not like they're unhealthy, but they just don't look as shiny and nice as they should. Because you're like, hey, they could have been so much better if we just pulled them off, like last night, just late last night. Go out there, shut the gate so they can't get water or any more hay, and then keeps them nice and tidy and clean. You can put wood chips in with these. Wood chips would absorb some of that, but the amount of wood chips you have to put in for big cattle is just insane. You have to put like 10 bags of wood chips in, which would cost like $100 or more. So we don't with calves, we do, because calves don't put out near as much wastage. So anyway, that's where we're at. That's what's going on. I'll pop back in I'll check back in with you in about 2-3 hours. Let you know how I'm feeling, where we're looking like we're going to land for the evening. And then I'll fill you in on kind of how the fall run's been going.